Look at these numbers. 52 goals in 53 games in his debut Premier League season, a treble winner, the fastest player to reach 50 Champions League goals in the history of the sport. By all statistical measures, Erling Braut Haaland is a cyborg, a flawlessly engineered goal-scoring machine designed to terrify defenders and shatter records that have stood for nearly a century. When he arrived in Manchester, the world said it was over. The league was finished, and for a moment, it was. But then, something strange happened. Instead of being crowned the undisputed king of modern football, a dark cloud of criticism began to follow him. Legends of the game called his overall play reminiscent of a League Two player. Fans labeled him a tap-in merchant. How does a player rewrite the history books, yet struggle to win the respect of the footballing world?
Oh, come on. Are we really going to pretend he's on the same level as prime Messi, Ronaldo, or even Mbappe? Sure, he scored. I've watched games where he has fewer than 10 touches in a full 90 minutes. 0 dribbles, no build-up play. He doesn't create, he doesn't assist. He just waits inside the 6-yard box for Kevin De Bruyne, Bernardo Silva, or Phil Foden to put the ball on a silver platter for him. That is not the greatest player in the world. That is just a system player, benefiting from a billion-dollar midfield. And there it is, the ultimate footballing paradox. We have become so obsessed with the aesthetics of football, the stepovers, the flair, the beautiful, brutal, ruthless efficiency. The truth is, people don't hate Erling Haaland because he is bad at football. They hate him because he exposes a truth that fans don't want to accept. You don't need to be beautiful to be devastating. This is the story of why Erling Haaland is the most misunderstood superstar in modern history. Actually be his greatest weapon. A weapon? You call standing around for 85 minutes a weapon? Let's look at the standard for elite strikers before he showed up. Look at Harry Kane dropping deep, pinging 40-yard passes like a number 10. Look at Karim Benzema linking up with Vinicius, the guy Haaland replaced. Aguero could take on 3 defenders in a phone booth and blast it into the top corner. Haaland, if he has to carry the ball more than 10 yards, he looks completely lost. His hold-up play is clunky, his passing is basic. If you take away his goals, you're literally playing with 10 men. If you take away his goals, it's a fascinating argument, isn't it? If you take away the one thing a striker is on the pitch to do, he isn't very good. But let's analyze this ghost narrative. Pep Guardiola is arguably the most demanding manager in football history, a manager who historically despised traditional number 9s. He benched Ibrahimovic, he phased out Aguero. He prefers playing with false 9s who touch the ball 100 times a game. So why did Pep spend millions on a player who rarely touches the ball? The answer is a concept called tactical gravity. Because of Haaland's sheer size, speed, and lethal finishing, he constantly occupies 2, sometimes 3 center backs. He doesn't need to touch the ball to influence the game. His mere presence stretches the opposition's defensive line so deep that it creates oceans of space for players like Foden, De Bruyne, and Rodri to operate in. He isn't a ghost, he is a decoy, a 1'4" battering ram that breaks defensive structures just by standing in the penalty box. Okay, tactical gravity. That's just a fancy way of saying this finishing when the lights are brightest, when the pressure is actually on. Look at his record in finals. The Champions League final against Inter Milan, blanked. The FA Cup finals against Manchester United, blanked. The Community Shields, blanked. Semi-finals against Real Madrid, pocketed by Antonio Rudiger. It is a known fact that when you play a low block and put a physical defender on him, Erling Haaland disappears. He's a flat-track bully. He'll score 5 goals against Luton Town or Burnley, but when his team desperately needs someone to take the game by the scruff of the neck and create a moment of magic out of nothing, he's nowhere to be found. It is true that his goal-scoring record in finals is an anomaly. For a man who scores at a terrifying rate, the sudden droughts in trophy-deciding matches are impossible to ignore.
But let's look at the bigger picture. In that Champions League run, Haaland scored 5 goals against RB Leipzig in the round of 16. He scored in both legs against Bayern Munich in the quarterfinals. You don't get to a final without a player carrying you through the gauntlet. And once in a final, opponents know they cannot let him score. Managers build their entire defender. Milan threw everything at him. Real Madrid's Rudiger shadowed him like a bodyguard. And what happened? Manchester City won anyway. Because when you commit your entire defense to stopping one man, someone else is left completely unmarked. He didn't score the winning goals in those massive games, but he was the reason those goals were possible. I hear what you're saying, but that just sounds like excuses. If you want to talk about carrying a team, let's talk about Kylian Mbappe. Mbappe scored a hat trick in a World Cup final. He can take the ball from the halfway line, beat 4 players, and win a game completely on his own. Vinicius Jr. does it. Jude Bellingham does it. Those are complete footballers. Erling Haaland is competing for the Ballon d'Or against guys who play a completely different sport. If football is an art, Mbappe is a painter. Haaland is just a guy with a sledgehammer. You can't put them in the same bracket. And this brings us to the core of the issue. Football is an entertainment business. For 15 years, Lionel Messi and Cristiano Ronaldo conditioned us to believe that the best player in the world must be an entertainer. They must have magic in their boots. Erling Haaland is not poetry. He is a spreadsheet. He is algorithms, optimal angles, and raw, terrifying biology. He is a throwback to the pure, predatory poachers of the 1990s, but engineered for the modern era. There is no wasted motion. He doesn't want to entertain you with a step over. He wants to destroy your goalkeeper. We criticize him because he doesn't play the way we want the best player in the world to play. But since when did aesthetics matter more than the scoreboard? Look, maybe he is exactly what Manchester City needed to finally win the Champions League, but if he doesn't evolve, he's gonna get found out. Defenders are already getting smarter. They're learning how to cut off the supply lines. And if De Bruyne is injured or if the midfield has an off day, Erling Haaland, he has to learn how to drop deep, link the play, and be a modern forward. If he just stays a pure poacher, history won't remember him as the greatest of all time. They'll just remember him as a great goal scorer in a historic team. Does he need to evolve? Perhaps. Even Haaland himself has admitted in interviews that he has to improve every aspect of his game. He knows the criticisms. He hears the pundits calling him a League Two player. But the scariest thing about Erling Haaland is not his pace, his strength, or his finishing. It is his absolute, unshakable mentality. Most strikers would crumble if they touched the ball only 5 times in a half. They would drop deep into midfield, desperately searching for the ball just to feel involved. Not Haaland. He has the psychological discipline to wait. He knows that he only needs 1 fraction of a second, 1 momentary lapse in concentration from a defender to change the outcome of a match. He's comfortable living in the shadows for 89 minutes because he knows the 90th minute belongs to him. Erling Haaland will probably never give us the solo runs of Diego Maradona. He will never orchestrate a midfield like Zinedine Zidane. He is a player defined entirely by his final product. You can hate his lack of touches, you can criticize his hold-up play, you can call his style of football boring, robotic, or one-dimensional, but at the end of the day, the fundamental objective of football is to put the ball in the back of the net, and nobody in the modern era does it quite like him. So, is Erling Haaland a flawed footballer? Yes. Is he a system player? Maybe. But is he the most inevitable force in world football? Absolutely. And perhaps, deep down, that inevitability is what terrifies his critics the most.